Hey, we're here with Hope Wiseman. This is the season 2 opener of the Family Tree series. We're really excited to have Hope here. We got my constituent Roz here. Hope, you're a successful woman, a young successful woman in the cannabis space, the ever emerging, ever booming. It's so crazy about this industry. As much as we do know, there's so much more we don't know.
Hmm.
Right.
And so my first question would be, so this is kind of like a green rush, equivalent to like the gold rush when everybody started moving to California. And Nipsey has a prelude or interlude on the end of "That's How I Knew," the song on Mailbox Money, and is he talks about it, and it's crazy. We're seeing it kind of unfold in our eyes. So what would you say as far as from a business perspective going into the cannabis space with the unlimited opportunities that there are in front of us?
The cannabis industry, what even drew me to it was the fact that it was so much so at the ground floor level, and there's so much opportunity. It's a brand new multi-billion dollar industry that is only growing, and we don't see the end of this growth. It's not in sight currently. So that means that, especially right now, while there is so heavily regulated,
Hmm.
a lot of major players are not going to get in the game yet. And there's space and there's room for people to make a name for themselves that could potentially transcend past federal legalization and all of that. So I see so much opportunity for anyone who wants to get into this space right now. I'd say probably for like the next like 5 to 8 years. You have a real opportunity to get in, make a name for yourself in whatever space of the industry you'd like, and to grow that into potentially a household name, or at least one that can be successful. Something that I talk about with people all the time is that you don't have to have the biggest and best thing to be successful. You just have to define what you believe success is and then reach that.
Definitely. Well, definitely. Those are great insights. I think, you touched on something. This industry is so small, but it's large. It's in its infancy. And I think the industry is valued at, I think, like, what is it, like 30 something billion, um,
Yeah.
as we sit now. And it's only going up. And so for an industry to be worth 30 billion in its infancy, and it's illegal federally. It's an oxymoron. So that shows you the potential. So when it becomes legal, is the sky is the limit, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. I don't have them out there in my closet, but I have these Paul Georges. It's the Paul George 3 NASA's, and then on the back of it, what I think is really cool, it says, "Don't tell me the sky is the limit when there's footprints on the moon."
Yeah.
So is definitely it's definitely more than the sky's limit in this industry. And so I just
Yeah.
I want to commend you for being so young, and you're actually younger than me. So just to be like as young as you are, and we're only a few months apart, just to be as young as you are and have as much success as you have, do you feel an obligation to, certain things as far as being on your moral compass?
Definitely. I tell everybody, and pretty much every Black operator in the space, and I really think any operator in the space, but definitely if you're Black, you have an op I don't want to call it an obligation, but because I mean you're not, but it's so hard for me to take you serious if you're not advocating for inclusion in this space. If you are Black and operating in this space, you are one of very, very few. There's less than 4% of us in the space. And I believe that the last survey that was done was like 4 or 5 years ago. I believe if you did one now, we probably make up less than 4% of this industry. However, our prison system was almost all the way, we went from having like 200,000 people in prison to like 2 million in just a few years, basically over, petty nonviolent drug crimes. And many of them had to do with cannabis. Now every 1 in 3 Black men will see handcuffs sometime in their life. And we're trying to reverse that. And a lot of that was built on the backs of the legacy market, as I like to call it, within the cannabis industry. So I believe that if you are a Black operator in this space, regardless of age and all of that, you should be advocating for inclusion, social equity, health equity, reparations for what has been done to our communities. And these are things that we have to fight for as we're legalizing this plant, because once these laws are made, everybody, they're not going to be reversed. It will be very difficult. It's very hard to reverse a law, but we have the unique opportunity right now while these laws are being shaped to influence them and get what we want, and also refuse to allow laws to pass that are not equitable. So yes, as a young millennial Black woman, I feel like I have the responsibility to advocate for all of those things. And definitely, most importantly, I'm putting the Black agenda before anything about me being young or even me being a woman.
Definitely. And I think, that's what it's going to take. I think, everybody needs to, get on the same wavelength, and, band together. And before you join the live, one of my buddies, I've known him for a while, he joined the live, and he's a trucker. And so he started, just driving truck for other people. He did that for about a year and a half, and he bought his own truck. He bought his own truck, started picking up his own routes, doing his own thing. And now he's making like 30 grand a month. Now, granted, he has to pay taxes on those. So he's probably, bringing in 22, 23, something like that. But that's bread. You can build a lucrative business model around that. And so I have a few friends that I know from playing basketball. One has a dispatch company. So I want to link them together and just really, that's a resource. If you're Black and you own a trucking company, you have these Black businesses, they need a product from A to B, you can get it there. That's keeping the dollar all the way in our hands, and it's circulating. We're building. So I think we definitely, as businesses, things are a little weird right now because the legislations, and you can't do certain things across state lines and things like that. But once things, settle a little bit, I think that's definitely a play we need to make, for the advancement of our people. And I think, that's the move. Once we cut out people from, getting our products from here to here, you have no say so on how I get this to my brother over here. It's a wrap.
Yeah. I think interstate commerce is a little while off. Right. Just because, the way that legalization has been happening. So every state is legalizing on their own, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're talking about, we have federal bills out there. We have the States Act, we have MORE Act, we have all these bills that are being introduced to try and legalize cannabis federally, but a lot of them give legislation and jurisdiction still to the state to do it. And it's because people have invested millions and millions of dollars in building out their state focused programs. Right. And I think it's smart. It's protecting the entrepreneur in this equation, because we have spent a lot of money, time, and effort building businesses that fit within this very restricted model. So overnight, if you go ahead and change it and you say, okay, interstate commerce is allowed and you can ship your products from California to Maryland, now, why do I need a grow center in Maryland? So people who spent $30 and $40 million building out these, state-of-the-art indoor grows, kind of SOL, because, at the end of the day, this sun-grown cannabis from Northern California is better than your indoor grown, whatever it is that you think is fire, So like, and then one day we all gonna be buying weed from the same field that El Chapo was growing it on, okay? Yeah. They're gonna be importing it right from the same exact field. So and El Chapo mad as hell. But that's what's happening. That's what's gonna happen eventually. So I definitely think it's a whiles off. I think they're gonna taper it in. I think that, like we'll start to see certain jurisdictions, like the tri-state area might say, okay, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you guys, we can ship product between each other, but nowhere else. You know what I mean? I think you're going to start to see that before you just see like an open market.
Definitely. Yeah, no, yeah, you got a good point. And then if you look at I think the numbers on like the all the produce and all the things that are grown in the country, I
Mm-hmm.
think about 60% of things our agriculture comes from California. So that would open a floodgate for California to shut some stuff down. A lot of people be SOL. But so you graduated from Spelman, and like I wanted to avoid kind of asking you about your story. I know your story. Roz he's kind of been catching up, doing some research on you.
Doing some research, definitely.
It's a lot out there. You do a lot, and so I lost my train of thought actually. I'm high and I ain't gonna smoke.
That happens too as you build up like a THC
Yeah,
tolerance. You're just like always kind of high. I'm definitely that way, but a little like talk if you want to know a little bit about my experience at Spelman and like how I got here at this point. I think it was really important for me to go to an HBCU, but at the same time, I tell people all the time, I kind of grew up in this little Black bubble. Growing up in Prince George's County, Maryland, I was surrounded by affluent Black people my whole life. I really didn't know that was like unique. So I started traveling. I did pageants growing up. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, whenever I say that, they're like, that makes sense. But I did pageants growing up, and I was traveling around the US doing them. And I was meeting little girls from all over the place. And then I realized very quickly, I was like, oh, they're not used to seeing a smart Black woman. They're not used to seeing Black people at all. Oftentimes I even, because I'm fair skinned, would get confused for just being like very tan.
Right.
And I had no idea that, where I came from was a really unique place. So I don't take that for granted. And I understand that my upbringing in Prince George's County really had a lot to do with me feeling strong and confident in areas that people don't look like me. And the same thing when I went to Spelman. I went to Atlanta there's quite a few people that I knew that were going to Spelman and Morehouse and Georgia Tech. And I'd say Atlanta is very similar to Prince George's County in that aspect. There's a lot of like very successful, affluent Black people there. It's just the South. It's the South version.
Yes.
And yeah, I really liked it. I mean, for me, it just really taught me about loving my culture and understanding where I come from, being proud of that, and being able to take up space in rooms that often try and silence me. And I really accredit Spelman to that. I think that it taught me really how to be proud of my Black skin, understand who I was, regardless of like, there's like colorism and all types of stuff. And like I said, being a fair skinned person, a lot of people think that like we don't go through the same things. I mean, it's just reverse for us. We get made fun of because we're light skinned. We get told that we want to be white.
And you're not Black enough.
Yeah, you're not Black enough. I remember when all the articles first started coming out for me. I used to be, I'm a little blonde right now, but like I used to be like blonde. And I remember all the articles were coming out about me, and I remember people saying things like, oh, she doesn't want to be Black, or she's not really Black. And for me, that was one of the first times that I was like, what do you mean? Because all I've ever done was identify as a Black woman my whole life. Like I've never thought of myself as anything different. When I look at a very dark-skinned woman, I don't see a difference between her. We're both Black women. So that was so confusing to me on how someone could say that. But it's just, my root in who I am and where I come from has really helped me not that those things don't.
That's dope. And so that's, I don't know how to pronounce what you just, the county that you grew up in. How close is that to PG County, or is that PG County?
That is PG County, yeah. Prince George's County.
Okay. Yeah, so the company that I work for is actually is based in the Baltimore, Maryland area. I work for a healthcare, a Black-owned healthcare startup called Live Care Health, and
Awesome.
yeah, so the premise of it is leveraging the power and influence of the barbershops and salons to bring healthcare to our people. So our people, we're overrepresented in every chronic disease category, such as diabetes, COPD, heart disease, you name it. Black people all rank at the top. Our health stores, and I'm not gonna preach, but a lot of it's systematically done. But so we don't have like the resources. A lot of Black people don't have insurance. A lot of Black people don't have, primary care doctor. Especially Black men, we don't go to the doctor. And so is the influence of the barber is very important because you can go in the barbershop and y'all talk about it's a safe social space where you kind of let your guard down and you're open to like harsher subjects and topics. So yeah, I'm a little familiar with PG County. We have some shops out there. So yeah, so I think that's really dope. And so I think, coming from that type of background, I can definitely see, how you landed yourself in this position. And that's another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on. And so how do you see yourself coming from that type of background, going to Spelman, like all the things that you've been doing have been equipping you, to operate the way that, you're doing. So how do you see yourself, helping or, like setting up some programs or things like that for, other Black women to do things like that, like as you're doing?
Well, I definitely have made it a point in my so far short career in this space to share my story as much as possible. I've realized that I've been able to inspire so many people to get into the space since I have began to share my story, which is really exciting for me. I actually just read a story about a young kid in California that got a delivery license, and the headline was something like youngest person or something like that. And I was like, okay, kudos to you, because I've been saying, I really want someone to come take the title for me. I'm almost 30. I'll be 29 in a few weeks. I'm almost 30. I shouldn't be the youngest woman in this space. I should not. There can be more of us. Granted, it's very capital intensive to get in on this side and all that. I get it. But there needs to be more resources. And I realized that I have a unique opportunity to potentially become that resource for other people. So what I'm really doing right now is I began to share my story, and that's kind of phase one of me making sure other people get in the game. I want you to see what I did, how I did it, and attempt for you to do it the same way if you can. Granted, I tell everyone, I had people that lift me up and put me on their shoulders. I did not do this alone. I had people that championed me and believed in me and put me in a position to win. So I know not everybody has that, right? So I want to become that person for you. The only way for me to do that is I got to put my oxygen mask on first.
Yeah, you got to get on first, so that way you
I got to do it first.
Yep, definitely. You gotta
I can't help y'all if I die.
Agreed.
I can't help.
Can't build the house if you're giving out the bricks.
Right. So I'm at the stage right now where I'm really focused on building my business, making sure that it's viable, sustainable, and that it continues to grow so that I have the resources to be able to pour back into others in my community. At the same time, we put a lot of effort into being true community partners in Capitol Heights, where we're operating. We're looking at acquiring other stores in other states, and we plan on having the same community focus in all of the areas that we operate in, even if they are not, disproportionately impacted areas. No matter what, we believe that where we operate, we should pour back into those locations with a focus, of course, on disproportionately impacted areas. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of phase two for me right now, is focusing on community impact within the areas that I operate in, as well as just making sure we are as operationally successful as possible so that I'm able to go into phase three which is really partnering with people looking to apply for licenses, or maybe even people who have acquired licenses that need operational help and financial help. We want to be that resource financially and operationally for people who want to grow in this space.
Definitely,
And
that's
I think that
amazing.
you said before that even and I was doing research and then watched a previous interview, and you had said something along the lines of a lot of the things that people are doing that are in the cannabis space, they can't write this stuff off. So like you have to really have a lot of backing and or be able to move the pieces around where you need to be able to cover yourself. So the fact that you want to continue to do that for people and be that, you know, that kind of stepping stone and lay out the blueprint and help them get their feet set without being like, without people knowing, like you can't just write stuff like that off in general. So it's noble, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, we can't write off most typical business expenses, guys. Not yet. Things will change, but because cannabis is a federally illegal Scheduled 1 controlled substance, we are barred from writing off typical business expenses. So how you guys can take deductions for rent and payroll and marketing expense, we can't write any of that off. So for every dollar I bring in, I can only keep about like 10 to 15 cents.
Yeah, that's kind of rough, but I mean, you know, that's something we're working through and working towards reversing.
In the future, it'll be changed, and you know,
Yeah.
you'll be one of the people that'll be like, I was there, I was there when it wasn't this.
So
I remember, I'm part of the reason why you have a normal business.
Yeah, exactly. Facts. And I think this time is going to be kind of like how was the time before this is called the legacy era, legacy, market. I feel like this time is going to have its own name, and it's going to be kind of like the after legacy, and then it's going to be another time. And so I got one more question I want to ask, and then I'm not going to monopolize the rest of the time. I know you've been itching, Roz. My bad. I got to get my question.
A couple of questions.
So my next question is, my passion with cannabis and where I see the most impact being done is in reentry. Giving jobs to those people who are reentering society, especially the ones who have been incarcerated for a dang plant. For God's sake, I should have had on my other sweatshirt. I got a green sweatshirt that says it's just a plant. I dropped the ball on that one. My bad, Delilah. But Delilah's Day is who made the sweatshirt. But so that, as well as sustainability aspect of it, like addressing gentrification, addressing homelessness. We can build houses with hemp. At least majority of 80% of a house can be built by hemp. So where do you see us tackling those two lanes and those markets?
Yeah. A lot of cannabis companies are currently doing work with people re-entering society from cannabis charges. And I think that we're going to see, there's already a focus on that part of the industry by the major players. So I think that's really exciting. We also have something called the Last Prisoner Project in the industry, which is a nonprofit that's focused on making sure that every last prisoner that has to do with anything with cannabis is released from jail. We're making sure that as states legalize cannabis for recreational or adult use purposes, that they're not leaving out the criminal justice that has to happen, that all prisoners have to be released, that their records need to be automatically expunged. And there's just a lot of people fighting for it. So I think that it's definitely a movement within the industry. I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think that with all the efforts that are going towards making sure that we release all current prisoners that have nonviolent cannabis charges, as well as that we help, like you said, those who are re-entering society actually find success, because we know recidivism is high because there's no help. You can't just release somebody back into society and tell them, oh, you can't get a job because you have this charge. You potentially you don't qualify for any government assistance. you get nothing pretty much. Just go back, and you've been out of society for 3-4 years. Things have changed. You don't know how things work now.
Right.
Don't let you have been in there for 10 years. You come back to a whole new world and you're just confused, which is depressing. That's depressing in itself. Potentially your family could have moved on. Your family's doing something different. I think that sometimes we forget the mental, the mental impact this can have on someone.
Damage.
Yes. I mean, there's just so much that has to happen. We have to be there for these people, especially now that we're recognizing that this was wrongfully done.
Right. Yeah, shout out Corvan Cooper and Evelyn LaChapelle. You said the Last Prisoner Project. And I'm sorry, I always forget that third co-defendant's name. I need to do a better job. I'm going to remember her name after today. But yeah, so I think those are really great points. And I'll leave the rest to you, Roz. I think you said we had 10 minutes. I don't have the Zoom premium.
Thank you. So when we spoke the other day, I did want to bring up a topic that I thought was interesting, and that a lot of the targeting now is some of the targeting now is coming from sports. How much it can help athletes and stuff recover and things like that. And what is your take on how that's going to enter the market? Do you feel like that's going to help the cannabis industry really go to a next level, like even like how they have influence on music and stuff like that as well? And like even with 2K, they get like people's music into the game, and now it's a people are joining in on that together. So where do you see that kind of going, cannabis going into different lanes?
Totally. So I've been recently like exposed to the world of partnerships and marketing, and now that I'm seeing how it all works, sports and athletics in general have a huge influence on culture. I'm realizing that Black culture has a huge influence on everything that's happening. We build the culture.
It's all our shit.
And most of these athletes that we're talking about that are pushing this narrative are Black. So I definitely believe that cannabis and athletics are going to merge. At the end of the day, the cannabis plant is an awesome anti-inflammatory. It helps you recover. And it has other medicinal properties that we're still learning and identifying, and we're fine tuning and making them more, the efficacy stronger for what it's needed. I think we're going to come out with things that you can rub on your muscles that instantly make them feel better. We already kind of have it with some of these topicals and creams. I
think it's BioLex gel, and that's what they do. It's a girl that I don't personally know, but a lot of people that I went to school with know, because she went to South Carolina, University of South Carolina, and her dad started. Her name is Winifred Yamalex, something like that. But her dad has started something like that.
All of these things are going to make a huge difference in really normalizing the industry and normalizing the plant. Because when a person who really needs relief, when their muscles are achy and all that, needs relief, and they can rub something on it, and then you tell them it's because of cannabis, their mind changes from kind of that just say no, this is a drug, that thought. I think that the athletic space, I think Black culture influences a lot that we do, at least here in this country and really all around the world. And cannabis culture has already been celebrated in like music and all of that. And I think that when you start bringing it into sports, we start getting like super mainstream. We start getting into the these are the people in China who looking at America, they're watching our sports, they're looking at our athletes. So I think that now we're just bringing cannabis to a bigger stage through athletics.
Dang, you just said something crazy, and I'm not gonna put in on your time, Roz. I just want to say this because she's and then if you have a little bit more time, I don't know how much time you have exactly. We can kind of start another one and do like 15 more minutes or something like that. But you've been from PG County. Georgetown is real big up there, And so I know you're probably a Allen Iverson fan. I know a lot of people up there are. And so if you look at it, a lot of people, they created Michael Jordan as the GOAT. But in my eyes, Allen Iverson is one of the GOATs, because if you look at what he did to the landscape of the NBA, he shifted the landscape of the NBA just by his swagger, his charisma, his demeanor, how he carried himself. That changed the NBA. That changed it. After that, the commissioner David Stern implemented a dress code. After he shook up the whole NBA so much, they had to implement a dress code. And so I think, when you look at that ability one man had to do to influence the whole NBA, and the NBA stands to China. Look how many people love Kobe. Look how many people love Jordan. Look how many people love, all the big stars, LeBron and all that. So I feel like, that's going to be a major play. That opens up another can of worms.
It's a whole nother. I mean, imagine LeBron smoking a joint on TV. What that would do to people's minds. Not saying it would, but like imagine what that would do. People be like, damn, so it's okay for me to smoke? All of a sudden, it's like it was always okay. But now you see LeBron doing it, it's okay, So I think that having athletes come out in support of cannabis is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
I had another question I did have more to the business aspect of it is for the people that oh goodness, I just broke my pen. For the people that are trying to get into the space, and as you say, we probably have another 8 years of it still being the groundbreaking level. I believe you said. What are some of like the niches that you think that people would try to go for, or try to hold that space and really get through the period in between it becoming federally legal before they can before it becomes like a commonly packaged good?
So, everyone wants to be on the plant touching side. Everybody wants to own a dispensary or a processing center or a cultivation where they can grow. Think about all the things that support those things, because they're not going away, right? So like if you get into selling machinery and equipment, you get into consulting somehow, but you need experience. You need to be good at something to consult. You can't call yourself a consultant and can't do that. But like things like that, supplies, they're just marketing, technology. All of these things are support. That's where I would go right now if I was like, okay, how do I get in the game? I don't have enough money to open up a store or to do X, Y, and Z. I would be thinking about businesses that support these businesses that aren't going anywhere. Cultivators aren't going anywhere. It might shift to a few major players, and we might have a small, group of cultivators now, and it won't be all these thousands and thousands of them, but they're still going to be pushing out thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of cannabis. Right. So they're still going to need supplies and all these things. I think that you have to just think about what can support the industry and then build on that. And then another thing I said is you don't have to be the biggest and the best to make really good money and to provide for yourself.
Yep.
So you got to really define what is success to you, and go from there. Cause that's something that I've realized, I definitely want to grow in my business, but at the end of the day, with my one store that I have, it can sustain me for the rest of my life.
Right.
So, I have huge aspirations. Okay. I got $1 billion dreams, and that's the way I work. But at the end of the day, I am successful. I can provide for myself for the rest of my life off of what I've already done.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing to say when you wake up in the morning and like, hey, I'm good. I'm good. The bill's paid. That brings a whole level of peace of mind that white people aren't used to.
All right. So I in learning about your story and who you are, I've been glad to hear a lot of the business side, what you're doing and how you're coming to the game and trying to take over. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about like your personal experience. Like, what was your first experience with cannabis and like how you felt and things like that?
So my first experience with cannabis was way too early, so I won't tell you how old I was.
Touche.
Way too early. But I remember I was at my best friend's house and she has an older brother. And it's funny because he's in the industry now. So he loves to tell people like, oh yeah, I'm the first person who smoked out Hope Wiseman. But yeah, so I remember he had like, this is back when we used to do this. I don't do this anymore, but like, I mean, there was probably like 15 people in a rotation. And I remember we were outside in like a park. And it was like 15 people standing in a circle, like in a real rotation, like passing around like 4 or 5 J's, you know? So that was, I definitely don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does.
No. I'm such a bougie smoker now. I'm like, I gotta roll my own J. Like,
oh yeah, definitely. I'll give you something to roll your own, but this is for me.
Yeah, that's for me. Like, oh no, I don't do that anymore. I stopped doing it before the pandemic. Okay. I have like 4 people I'll smoke with. And yeah, like I just remember being like, I really like this. And I remember I had like 2 of my girlfriends. So my best friend, whose brother was like facilitating all of that. And then our other best friend. So it was like 3 of us growing up. And I remember them 2 being they hated it. Like, you know, how some people smoke and they get so paranoid and like freaking out, you know, just like don't know what to do. Me, I was like, I actually feel pretty good. Like, I was a little anxious before this. Now I'm pretty calm, you know? Like, and you know, now I look back and I'm like, that's because my endocannabinoid system was different than theirs. And the way that I received the cannabis really helped me balance and reach homeostasis versus my girlfriends. It like set them all into like, what? You know, it like made their body go crazy. And it just was really interesting to me how like 2 people can do the same exact thing, hit the same joint the same amount of times and have 2 completely different experiences. And that was really telling for my first experience with cannabis. But I mean, after that, I don't want to say hooked, like I was addicted, but I just realized like, this works for me. You know, like I like the way that I feel and I actually feel calm. Now, I always tell people too, there's like a point of diminishing returns with cannabis. Like you hit like a peak and it's like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then there's a point where like you really can't get any higher. And then you just, it's not good after that. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about.
That's when I started asking what strains is what, and you know, and
it's just like, wait, what is this that I just smoked? Because I don't feel good, or like my heart beating real fast right now. It's like, what's happening? So I got there too when I was younger, but my first experience with cannabis really, that's when I was like, I like this. Versus my friends, they were like, oh, I'm never doing this again.
That's kind of how I was. My best friend that I was telling you about the past, he's actually crazy. Damn, everything just comes back so full circle. So he's actually the one who introduced me to cannabis, and I was that person. Like and my mom was just so against cannabis before, and it just was never on my radar. And so when I did it, I got high. It felt like I was doing everything twice. So I was going up the steps. It felt like the longest walk up the dang steps. I got to my room and I said, oh, hell no, mom gonna kill me. She said, I'm high. I got in the bed. It was over with.
I understand. I mean, it hits everybody different and you have to kind of figure out how it works for you. You're not thinking about that though when you young and just smoking a J and all that stuff. And then honestly, especially a lot of people in our community, the Black community, we don't think about cannabis in any other way than to smoke it. Out of a joint or a backwood or paper or whatever it is. Like we don't think about it. We don't even really use glass products that much. I mean, bongs and all stuff. We don't think about all the other ways we could use cannabis. You don't have to inhale smoke. But that's, you know, it's just what we're used to. It has a quicker onset. People don't like taking edibles and waiting an hour for it to work. And then you might take too much and then you're real high. You know, like it's so many different ways to use cannabis though, but like that's just not what we normally, that's not where we start. And that's not how I started either. Not how I started.
The first time that sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna just say that's why the education is really, really important. We need to educate our people And that's why, I feel like the obligation with 448 is to, do that. I have a video series that, I want to make it like a TV show, and you'll be going into a dispensary. So most people don't have a dispensary experience. So it'll show you kind of like what a dispensary experience is. It'll educate you on a particular strain. Then it'll introduce you to different consumption methods. And then it'll finish off, consuming whatever the consumption method for the episode is. It'll be like crucial conversations, kind of like a That 70s Show theme at the end when they all in the smoker circle.
You know how long it took me to realize that that's what they were doing?
Bruh, forever, ever. It was probably like 10 years after I first seen the shows when I realized that's what they was doing. But go ahead, finish what you're saying, Ralph.
Yeah, I think it was explaining. Oh, that's what it was. I feel like a lot of people are at the point where they say that they want to do edibles, but they don't like it because they can't control their high. That's why they choose to smoke like a blunt or a joint or something, because as you said, it's like easily accessible. You can like, all right, 2 pulls and good, but once you take that edible and it's like a couple milligrams more than you asked for, it's like the roller coaster sets in. And so just the education piece behind that, I feel, is very important, and knowing what your body can handle, because we could definitely eat the same like little bar of chocolate, and I'm 6'2" something, so it's not really gonna do too much for me. But somebody that's half my size, it might be like, yeah, I'm on the move.
Half your size, tolerance matters too. And then also another thing I've learned: people who have a high tolerance with one method of use, they don't always translate, right? So like if you are a smoker, that doesn't mean that you can eat 100 milligrams of
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like I personally had those issues, and I know plenty of other people that's like, damn, I smoke all day, every day, and I ate that edible and it was 20 milligrams and it had me on my head. And I'm like, look, that's just a different type of high. It's hitting your bloodstream different, faster, or more. The efficacy is just way higher than like when you smoke. And then smoking, that high goes away pretty fast. It's not lasting. So
yeah, I just want to say, man, shout out to Rolling Bouquets. I know they your homeboys in your area. Man, I put this thing together. I don't know if y'all can see it through the light, but I put this thing together.
It looks like the brightest joint I've ever seen in my life.
No.
It's funny because it's not really that bright. It's like brownish, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I actually
they're awesome. Definitely shout them out. They're great. Black owned rolling paper company based out of the DMV.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. It was very nice to get to know you, and definitely looking forward to working with you again.
Same. I enjoyed this. Thank you guys. I think people get a little bit of a insight of who I am outside of the businesswoman. So
yeah, definitely. That's kind of how I wanted to do it, make this a little bit more organic, and just kind of let it be free flowing, and just people get to just know you a little bit better, and just kind of see the personable side of you. You are a high level businesswoman, but there's a different side of you. You're human.
Yes, yeah. I am.
So yeah, we just want to thank you for your time, and I definitely look forward for doing some things, partnering later down the future, things of that nature.
Awesome. That sounds great.
All right.
Love what you guys are doing. Thanks so much.